Hello, my name is Ya Cao. Today I want to talk to you about, is God actually the villain? This is the 5th video I made to respond to the famous channel master named Mattern 2525. He has so many videos slandering God who he refuses to admit even existed. His most recent video called Is God Actually the Villain? I was a little disappointed when I watched it this time because there was no cartoon. It was just him saying. He said a lot of empty talks with gorgeous rhetoric. For a Chinese with English only is my second language, it was very hard to understand what he was trying to say. He also used more than 22 minutes, longer than most of his other videos, trying to coin God as a villain. My video will be a lot shorter, and yet I only need to use 3 points to debunk him. First of all, what is a villain? How do you judge who is the biggest villain? Did he do the most killing to be the biggest villain? Actually, this is not a very simple subject. If someone causes others to be killed, a villain? In the 1970s, there was a serial killer in the US by the name of Ted Bundy. He kidnapped, raped, and killed many women. He was a villain indeed. He was later executed in the electric chair at Florida State Prison on January 24, 1989. He was a villain, but the judge who sentenced him to death is not a villain. The judge had enforced the law and handed it down the execution to take his life, and yet no one considers him as a villain. Therefore, it is very clear that not everyone who cause others to lose their lives are villains. Secondly, when you decide who is the villain, it actually depends on which side you are in. In the Second World War, Dwight Eisenhower was the Allied commander who was responsible to wipe out the Nazi military, consequently had annihilated many German lives. Hitler, on the other hand, with the blood of 6 million Jews on his hands, also killed many lives. After the war, many Nazis escaped secretly to Brazil and Argentina, hoping to regroup someday. Everyone today considers Hitler was the villain, but if you ask those Nazis who was the villain among the two, they would surely tell you Eisenhower was the one, not Hitler. Do you get what I'm trying to say? When you are in a different group, you will come up with a different answer. In his effort to convince you that God is the biggest villain, Mattern used some examples. Most noticeably is God killed all firstborn in Egypt. I'm going to show you this is a typical atheist tendency or tactic to take things out of context. If you are familiar with the story about the grandchildren of Abraham, they went to Egypt after one of the 12 sons, Joseph, became the prime minister under Egyptian Pharaoh. The descendants of Abraham, the Israelites, then lived peacefully with the Egyptians for 400 years and grew to be numerous, until a wicked Pharaoh who knew nothing about the contribution of Joseph decided to enslave the Israelites, as described in the Bible I'm quoting to you. The Pharaoh tried to take advantage of them, making them slaves to labor for him, even to the point that Pharaoh ordered to kill the male children of the Jewish newborns. God, Jehovah or Yahweh, raised up Moses to deliver them out of the bondage. God commanded Moses to talk to the wicked Pharaoh to let the Israelites leave Egypt, telling the Pharaoh to let my people go. Of course, the wicked Pharaoh wanted to exploit the Israelites, would not let them go. Therefore, God warned Pharaoh, unless he let the Israelites go, horrible plagues would come upon Egypt. If Pharaoh would just let the Israelites go, nothing would happen to them. Therefore, one after another plague had fallen upon the Egyptians, because Pharaoh was stubborn like a mule, refused to let the Israelites go. You can read the whole story in the book of Exodus in the Bible. The sad thing was Pharaoh's heart was as hard as people like Dr. Mattern today, refused to learn from the hardships falling on them. The heart of Pharaoh had become harder and harder. Finally, God warned him if he still refused to let the Israelites go, the most severe 10th plague of killing the firstborn would come. Even with the lessons of the last 9 plagues, Pharaoh hardened his heart to the point that God simply let this wicked Pharaoh get what he deserved. Finally, on the eve of Passover, all the firstborn in Egypt were dead. Please think about whose fault was the whole thing. God had warned Pharaoh 10 times, and yet because his stubbornness, he forced God to fulfill his warning, and it caused all Egyptian firstborn to die. By now, you should know why God had no choice to use the severe punishment for Pharaoh to let go of his control hand of the Israelites. The righteous God used his authority to judge the wicked. It was equivalent to the judge sentenced Ted Bundy to die. What is sad is people like Dr. Mattern is either ignorant about the Bible or is always deliberately taking things out of context. The third point I want to make is that the major theme of Christianity is God so loved the world, he gave his only Son, which is Jesus, to die on the cross for all mankind to save them. Can you imagine a villain would sacrifice his son to save the whole humanity? You see, Dr. Mattern is on the same side, the dark side of Pharaoh, which opposes God. Maybe that is why he calls himself Dark Matter. How funny is that? Since Dark Matter is on the opposing side of God, therefore it is only natural for him to count God as a villain, just like the Nazis would count Eisenhower as a villain. I made another video explaining his mindset called Do Atheists Hate God? I think you will be interested in watching that too. I'm looking forward to watch Dr. Mattern's next video. I will try hard to make one to respond to it. If it doesn't come out soon, I may pick one of his older ones to debunk him. I find it is so interesting and so fulfilling to do that. Therefore, please stay tuned. Thank you for watching, and may God richly bless you. See you next time.